Hey guys, it's Matt on the Walk, and today we got a lot of cool stuff to talk about. We're talking about more tournament deck thingies, all sorts of decks, all sorts of cool new stuff, random cards, all sorts of things going on. So yeah, this is another pre-modern deck digest with lots of decks from the pre-modern monthly online open thing. I always like doing that one because it's one of the larger ones, and you get to see all sorts of cool stuff. So yeah, I mean obviously there is certainly use on covering like the smaller ones, um, but I think like you get a better picture of stuff when you just look at I guess maybe the overall trends. Still a little bit hard to say, but you can still glean some useful information. So let's get started. Okay, and we are starting off strong with a stock elves list. Um, the only thing that isn't stock about this deck is the deck name. Proud member of the Jens Jaeger fan club. Uh, Again, more inside jokes. I have no idea what it means, but I think I like it. I think I like it. So yeah, again, typical stock sort of survival elves deck, or probably just you could just probably just call it elves at this point, since the survival engine has another good dimension to it, gives it some more recursion, card advantage, that kind of good stuff. So yeah, there you go. All right, and now we got like a pox. Um, these decks names. Gabriel Farkas. What a sweet name. Playing, I can't believe it's not Pox. Oh man, this shit. Oh, these names. I love. Oh, this is sweet. Look at these. Look at this stuff. All sorts of wonky stuff here. So of course this is a blue-black Pox list. Well, quite a few different new things. Of course, big one just being plain blue gives us access to things like Recoil, which in this deck is pretty close to an instant speed Vindicate. Very sweet card. Also, we got Magrim. I'm not sure how that's pronounced, but you know, basically whenever they discard, they take 2 damage, that kind of thing. Got Hoodwink, another good blue bounce spell. And of course, we have Ill-Gotten Gains, which is a good way to get, I don't know, stuff back, obviously. Typically, Ill-Gotten Gains was played as like a combo card. I wonder how it performed here. Kind of interesting. So I'm not exactly sure. Like obviously it's recursion. Your opponent gets to recur too. So I'm not exactly sure how exactly. I keep saying exactly. I'm not sure how that works, but it's an interesting idea. It's a nice little sort of mini Yawgmoth's Will kind of thing. Um, and then of course we got the fairy conclaves. That's definitely pretty neat. Typically, the Pox decks play Mistress Factory, but here we got fairy conclave, which is a flying Mistress Factory, so it flies over blockers, of course, as well as being able to produce blue mana, which is certainly nice in this deck with a few blue cards. So yeah, and then of course sideboard with awesome stuff like Propaganda, Hydroblast, Chill. These are awesome cards for a Pox-like or a Pox-style deck because a lot of the red decks are very difficult. They're obviously perfectly fine just ripping burn spells every turn and pointing them at your face. So your discard loses a lot of its effectiveness after, like fourth or fifth turn or whatever when you're both hellbent. But anyways, lots of cool stuff here. Lots of really cool stuff. This is definitely an interesting avenue to explore. Yeah, there you go. All right, and continuing the trend with really interesting new archetype things, we've got an oath deck. It's an oath deck, but it's a junk oath deck. So it's black, green, white. Junk, of course, being the old school black, green, white name, right? So very sweet, very sweet. I like this a lot. Um, Again, this is, I mean, outside this configuration of cards is unusual, but the cards themselves are not. Black green deck's gonna play Pernicious Deed, and if you white black decks, of course, will play Vindicate and things like that, Verdict. all that good stuff. The Oath package with the Shoba, all that good stuff. Enlightened Tutor, Funeral Pyre, swords. Nothing too weird here. The only, I guess I don't even want to say weird thing here is Gigapede. This is a sweet card to wish for. It's very good against blue decks, right? Because you can't plow it, and it can keep going back ad nauseum. Very sweet, very cool insect card. I like it a lot. It's kind of like a Carnage Tyrant, except not Carnage Tyrant. It's not as cool, unfortunately. Even though Carnage Tyrant is new border. Carnage Tyrant's a little cooler, but Gigapede's pretty cool. Anyways, I guess that doesn't matter. Look, this is a sweet deck. This is a sweet, interesting take. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. Although it's missing a card. It's only 59 cards. What's going on here? Probably an Enlightened Tutor or something. Anyways. Okay. Now this deck has 2 extra cards. I mean, there's a lot of weird errors with some of these decks when they're entered. Of course, you know, I don't wanna poo-poo or nag the person that uploads, of course, all of these to TC decks. He or she is doing a very good community service, you know, giving us all this information, which is wonderful. Just pointing out the errors because you get some funny ones. You get some funny ones. I don't know if there was just an autocorrect thing. I get the feeling now that I get the feeling that War Mammoth was not in this deck. Look, I love this card. This card is sweet. I'm a big fan of Mammoths. I'm a big fan of Alpha Beta cards. I'm a big fan of Jeff Menges. I mean, this isn't like a garbage card. I mean, this is just a little bit below what you really want to be in a Stompy style deck, you know, with 10 lands. So I wonder if this was like supposed to be Call of the Herd, maybe, right? Maybe Call of the Herd or something, or I don't know. I probably should have looked this up, do like a gatherer search for War or Mammoth. I mean, I don't know. Again, outside of this weird stuff, maybe the War Mammoth just shouldn't have been there, right? Because this is a 62 card list. But again, I talked previously about these sort of more mid-rangey kind of stompy decks with things like Elephant Guide. Elephant Guide is freaking busted. That card is sweet. It's really, think of it like an Armadillo Cloak, but awesome against like control decks because they tap out or do a thing or whatever, or you're able to safely play the Elephant Guide on your creature. What ends up happening is like, your dude is huge now. Like all they can do is chump it, and if they do kill it, you still get a 3/3. I mean, this is pretty ridiculous value for an aura, right? So Elephant Guide definitely a little bit underplayed. Very powerful, very sweet card. Really good stuff there. But yeah, this is a typical Stompy list. Nothing too weird here. We got some Llanowar Elves to help us with the increased curve and things like that, and maybe to cast the War Mammoth. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe this was some sort of meme or joke or whatever. I don't know. Also, I wanna draw attention to the guy playing it, Agus Arbol. That is like the coolest fucking name I have ever heard. Excuse the language, but I mean that is an awesome name. How can you get any cooler than that? You can't. I mean that's basically impossible. That's basically impossible. That's too cool of a name. It reminds me of like Agris Kos, you know, like the main character, you know, from the original Ravnica novels and stuff. The you know, the guy that's like, I'm 2 weeks from retirement. Anyways, also the only other, I don't want to say weird, but Harvest Worm, definitely a sweet card. I was thinking about incorporating that into my Stompy list as like a 1 or 2 of or something, maybe. Trying to figure out other ways to try and incorporate it, because 2 mana for a 3/2 is pretty good, and it buys back the forest that you had to sack to Rogue Elephant, which is pretty cool. I think Harvest Worm and Rogue Elephant are both from Weatherlight, off the top of my head. But anyways, nothing too weird here. Definitely a pretty sweet deck. You got Bottle Gnomes and sideboard, of course, for things like Sly. Really good stuff. Sabo's Web against all those nasty Landstill decks. Of course, Winter Orb main deck and another Winter Orb in the sideboard. Phyrexian Furnace. Hidden Gibbons. Oh boy, give and take. Hidden Tank. Oh man, I'll never not love that. Anyways, it looks like a great list. A couple weird things. Again, I'm not sure what the War Mammoth is supposed to be. Maybe it's just a meme. Maybe it's a autocorrect. Maybe it's just a mistake on someone's part. I have no idea, but I love it. I love it. Moving on. All right, now we just have a Psychotalk list with typical Psychotalk stuff. I'm not a huge fan of 22 lands. I like 23 lands. I think that's just a little better because you pretty much always want to hit your land drops. Uh, and yeah, you don't really mind drawing more lands. Obviously, if you don't draw enough lands, you're going to be having a bad time, right? You won't be able to really cast enough spells. You won't be able to cast like your factor fictions and things like that. Um, but as you can see, there is no factor fictions in this deck, which is a little wonky, a little wonky. Now it does play Daze. Daze is obviously a very good card, and Daze is a little bit hard to support along with factor fiction. Obviously, right, because it takes longer before you can hit 4 mana, so they're just sort of sitting in your hand. Of course, Terror. I mean, I probably should have put the Terror on screen too, but the Terror itself, everyone knows what Terror does, right? Pretty iconic card. As another 2 mana way to kill stuff. So you can kill Exalted Angel, you can kill Jackalpup just the same, or Ravenous Baloth or whatever. So yeah, Terror, pretty interesting. Funeral Charm, of course, as a just a flexible card that's never dead. Very sweet. Smother, Rushing River, Intuition, Edict. I mean, yeah, just a litany of different removal spells. Certainly not a bad thing, especially when a deck like this is, where these cards will shine in different situations, and like you're just really willing to grind out every card that your opponent plays. You just want to kill it. So like even if you just like, oh, I just killed the worst creature on board, it doesn't matter because your plan is to kill every creature on board. So as long as a card does something, it's fine. Yeah, again, nothing too weird in the sideboard. We got discs, of course, against just all sorts of random artifacts and enchantments that are a little bit difficult to deal with if they resolve or aren't discarded. Plague Spitter too. This is a good one. This is probably against all the elf decks. Of course, Perish and Dystopia are pretty good against the elf decks too, as well as any other heavy green decks. Hydroblast, BEB, Lobotomy against, of course, those nasty combo decks. Real good stuff here. Really interesting. There's always so much iterating to do with these Tog lists, and I still haven't even found like the best one I want to play. I'm like jamming, one day I'm jamming Force Spikes in there, or Disrupts, or Repulse, or Exclude, or Peaks, or I don't know. There's just a ton of stuff because like it's just a bunch of powerful spells and some card drawing and some other stuff. But yeah, seems a little weird that there's no factor fiction. I think the card's just too good to not play. And I'm not sure how good like 3 Days 3 Gush is and how exactly that works, but it worked well enough apparently. So yeah, interesting stuff. I think still play one factor fiction. I mean, it's just so good. It's just so good. But other than that, nothing weird here. Shadow Mage is played in a bunch of these lists, and I kind of like Shadow Mage too. Nice sort of alternate win condition, good way to draw extra cards, of course. Chip damage or whatever, so your Tog doesn't have to do so much work. Can kill a little bit faster. But anyways, good stuff here. More in the ongoing sort of conversation, like how should we build Tog? There's so many different things to do. I still haven't came to a conclusion yet on what's best, and apparently the community hasn't either, because we just keep seeing lots of different lists, and I don't think it's exactly obvious which one is best. Anyways, moving on. All right, now we have some sort of blue, white, green control deck, and it has Radiant Dragoons as a one of. I mean, okay. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's probably, maybe, I don't know. Like, is this really that much better than Tarot's Faithful, which is like a 4 mana 1/4, gain 4 life, but it doesn't have the nasty echo? Dragoons, of course, has the extra life and, of course, the extra power, which is nice. So I'm not exactly sure what's best. It's interesting. I don't think it's a garbage card. Certainly far from it. So I'm not exactly sure what they're quite going for here. Because it seems, I mean, you're not really going to be winning the game with this. I mean, probably not. Even with like, all the control and stuff in the world. I mean, I feel like I'd just rather play another Morphling or something, but, or Decree maybe? I don't know. Anyways, it's an interesting card. I'd like to know how it played out. That would be pretty cool. And then of course got, typical sideboard stuff, all sorts of different hate. Treetop Village is another great card to bring in against control decks, mid-range decks. Gives you, another land to do, obviously to cast your spells, right? To play all your lands every turn and have a ton of mana. And of course, late game, when you have a bunch of other mana, it can attack, it can be a threat. Very sweet. I always like that strategy. More Dragoons, more Enforcer, just more creatures against stuff. Pretty sweet here. Yeah, Mystic Enforcer, obviously, yeah, the more black-green sort of mid-range decks. So they're focusing on things like Smother, Snuff Out, Vendetta, things like that. Obviously, Mystic Enforcer is very good against that. Not so good against Chainer's Edict or Diabolic Edict, but very good against that. Very good against any black creature, obviously, just stomps the shit out of it. Mystic Enforcer, very sweet card. Seems like it's sort of finally finding its place in the metagame. Lots of cool stuff here. But yeah, just typical blue-white-green stuff with good blue-white-green cards and a blue-white-green deck with a blue-white-green mana base. Nothing weird here. All right, and now we have a much more creature-heavy sort of sly list, or bird, or red deck win, or whatever the heck you want to call it these days. Yeah, the weird thing here, obviously Mog Flunky's not that weird, or Goblin Cadets is not that weird. I would definitely be playing like 4 Mog Fanatic, like that just feels wonky. I'd rather cut a Reckless Abandon and play like 4 Fanatic, and then 3 Abandon, because obviously trying multiple Abandons when you can't really do anything with them is pretty awkward. But yeah, it's an interesting card. 1 mana, 4 damage is very good to kill a creature or a player. And especially with stuff like Mog Flunkies and Goblin Cadets, whose use, or maybe that's not the word, but whose value can be pretty variable over the course of the game. If you only have a Mog Flunkies by itself, that's not going to be very good. So you can fling it at them or kill one of their creatures or whatever with Reckless Abandon. So that's pretty sweet. I'd like to see how this worked out. So yeah, Reckless Abandon, pretty interesting card. Cool stuff there. Nothing too weird in the sideboard, but yeah, good stuff here. All right, now we have this thing by Phil. This guy always plays crazy stuff. I swear, he always plays crazy stuff. That's okay. That's okay. That's what we like. That's what we like. That's what you guys come here for. You come here for all the weird, wonky stuff that you could definitely never get by just opening up TC decks and looking at this yourself. You have to come to me to get it. I am the gatekeeper, all right? Or whatever. Anyways, so this is a False Cure deck. Obviously, it's based on playing False Cure and then playing Reverend Silence and Skyshroud Cutter to make your opponent gain a bunch of life. And by gain a bunch of life, I actually mean lose a bunch of life. Lose a bunch of life. Very based, very sweet. And of course, Bosium Strip. This is a really interesting, unique card that gives stuff, instants and sorceries flashback, more or less, as long as it's like the top card. Very cool stuff here. This definitely, off the top of my head, I might be misremembering, but I don't think I've seen a False Cure deck that looked exactly like this. And I don't think it fit in the Nick Fit stuff either, off the top of my head. So that's pretty interesting. Of course, the Nick Fit stuff, meaning Veteran Explorer, Cabal Therapy, fetching a bunch of basic lands, that kind of thing. I'm pretty sure you guys know what that is. Or at least if you've been playing Legacy for the last 10 years, you know what Nick Fit is. But yeah, really cool stuff. A lot of really cool stuff that seems to fit together pretty well. Obviously, Cabal Therapy, Veteran Explorer, but as well as things like Wall of Blossoms and Wall of Roots is just protecting you, giving you blockers, and of course cards that can sack to Cabal Therapy. Very sweet, very cool. Nostalgic Dreams to get all your cards back. Foff to draw into stuff, Cunning Wish for, um, Foff for False Cure or some sort of answer, Intuition, right, for getting one of your combo cards, Sylvan Library because it's great, really great, and there's quite a few shuffle effects in here, which is very sweet. So yeah, I wonder how good this is. I mean, obviously it did pretty well, fairly well, right? Got ninth out of some number of people. So pretty interesting stuff. Pretty interesting stuff. I like it a lot. Okay, now we have the same sort of prison oath, phantom oath even, is what Phil TSKNT. Oh boy, I'm gonna butcher that name. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce it. Sorry. I don't want to sound like a dummy, but this Phil played the Oath Lands thing with lands plus the Oath plus Phantom Neshoba. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah. So I think this is a sweet shell for the Oath stuff. I like it a lot. It's really cool. Yeah. What more do I need to say? Really cool stuff here. All right, now we have a deck that I've personally tried to work on is Red Green Madness from oh boy, okay. I really need to stop reading these names. I should just go back to not paying attention to the names. Oh boy, yeah. Yeah, my Russian not that good. I don't even know if this guy is Russian. It sounds Russian. I'm really bad at Russian. I'm really bad at everything. This is not good. All right, moving on. This Red Green Madness deck, the biggest problem is I couldn't find a good enough discard outlet. They were all like, obviously you had Wild Mongrel, which is great, right? But other than that, there was just a lot of stuff that was too situational, or it was just too expensive, or whatever, So, but this guy, let's see, he used Cree Mage. Boy, they're giving me really tough words. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm not from Arcadia. So this, you can pay a red, discard, and then, you can read the card, right? And it deals the damage to stuff. So that's pretty good, but again, it adds a red onto it, which is unfortunate. And then there's Patchwork Gnomes. I would like to know how well this card worked out. I mean, 3 mana is just like, ugh, I mean, obviously, you untap with it. I mean, you can, use it as a blocker and hopefully get some value out of it by regenerating it. I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm not 100% sure about this card. I wonder if you should be playing like a Masticore or something maybe at some point. I'm not 100% sure. But Patchwork Gnomes is a gnome and it has sweet art. So that's pretty sweet. So that's a thing. Of course, also we got some random stuff like a Firestorm, right? One of Firestorm is very good to be discarded because, well, it's an uncounterable discard outlet too, which is pretty sweet because it's an additional cost to cast Firestorm is to discard the cards. So that's cool. Just draw your Wild Mongrels, kids. That's all you gotta do. Easy peasy. But the rest of the deck looks good. Fiery Temper, right, is bolts 5 through 8, which is sweet. I almost wonder if like something like Violent Eruption, that would be pretty sweet, right? Because that's the 4 mana triple red generic one, deals 4, divide as you choose, and it's an instant. And then of course has the madness of 2 red and generic. That card is so sweet. I love it. It has sweet art. I don't know if that would be good in the deck, but I'd probably try and jam one in anyways. I love that card. But yeah, a lot of cool stuff here. Lots of interesting things going on. Not sure how it worked out, but a lot of cool stuff. The base Wild Mongrel, Rootwalla, Arrogant Worm, Anger, all that stuff is good. Grim Lavamancer to take care or take advantage of all discarded stuff. Rancor, I'd almost kind of want to play another 1 or 2 Rancor if possible. It's pretty sweet, but maybe, like I said, there's no other room. They just really want those 4 Roar of the Worms, which, hey, with Anger, discard, cast, bam, big boy damage. Yeah, and then of course, just a sideboard full of hate. Blue hate, Clasm for weenie decks, Naturalize against artifacts and enchantments, Compost against black decks, Anarchy against white decks. Really great stuff. Good job, you person, for playing or Bruin this thing. Man, it's a tricky name. Okay, moving on. All right. I'm going to continue not reading names. I really should just stick with that. That should be my thing from now on. I'm not reading these names. This is going to ruin me. This is the solution. This is a more control-oriented version, less sort of mid-rangey, aggressive kind of aggro control thing, because it only plays the 4 Lightning Angel as win cons. Well, okay, it obviously plays Decree, but Decree, of course, is a more control-oriented win condition as well, right? Because it takes a bunch of mana to do really anything. But yeah, this is just more counter magic, so stuff like Prohibit is pretty sweet. Counterspell, Mana Leak, all this good stuff. Nothing weird here. Pretty stock sideboard. Yeah, good stuff. All right, and now we have, of course, Stasis with the super sweet tech of Root Maze, castable off of Forsaken City, as well as something like Elvish Spirit Guide too, which is pretty nice. But other than that, basically everything else is just stock. Trying to think, is there anything weird in the sideboard? No, that looks all pretty typical, all minus the Chronotog. I love Chronotog, so I'll never talk bad about that card. You know, it eats time, baby. That's awesome. All right. Yeah, this is Landstill, and the sideboard has Landstill cards, and the only wonky thing is 3 Dust Bowl. Typically, I only play like two Dust Bowl. You already have, I don't think I'd play 27 lands just to include another Dust Bowl. I think that's a little excessive, unless you really felt like you needed it somehow. Not 100% sure about that. But other than that, other than playing the 27th land and the 3rd Dust Bowl, this all looks pretty normal, right? A lot of times these decks do play Forbid. Forbid is pretty sweet, obviously. It lets you discard extra lands or dead cards or whatever to get back another counter. I typically would play something like 1 Forbid, but other than that, good stuff here. Good stuff here. Oh, it's got sideboard Propaganda. Should probably mention that. Propaganda is very sweet. Great against aggressive decks, of course, to try to flood the board. All right, and now we have the Rock. Good old Rock. This one also plays, again, an additional land that you don't usually see. Most of them are like 24 lands. So an additional land, but it's a Dust Bowl, so Dust Bowl's sweet. And 2 of those other lands are Mistress Factories anyway, so again, more sources of mana, but they also do stuff. So, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So, yeah. The deck name is pretty funny. 45% Rock's historic win rate plus 6% of lucky. Of course, playing upon the joke of, these sort of mid-range decks that are like, only win like 45% or 49% or whatever their matches, that kind of thing, but not having like any super spectacular matches. But other than that, everything here looks pretty normal, pretty stock standard. Rock. Good old Rock. Nothing beats Rock. All right, and now we have Wake control deck, and this is basically a blue-white green control deck with Mirari's Wake. Compulsion, again, is pretty stock standard in these because you have so much mana. You can really just discard random crap, lands or something like that, and then dig into good cards, right? The Decree or Wogs or whatever else you need. So, yeah. Again, nothing too weird with the sideboard. That's all pretty normal. Yeah, even something like the Hunting Pack, that was even played in Standard. So, cool stuff here. Cool stuff here. And of course, the winner, we have a blue-white sort of landstill thing. Doesn't have any standstills. It does play some wonky stuff like Forbidding Watchtower. This card's actually pretty sweet. It does block and kill basically every single creature and lives, and then still, they'll still probably have to burn a lightning bolt on it to kill it or an incinerate. So that's pretty sweet. Definitely a pretty good card, pretty good card. Instead of like say playing two Fairy Conclave, you play a Watchtower. So if you expect more aggro decks, that would make sense. Then we got the Parallax Tide kind of thing. Again, this is really sweet. This is very good against any sort of control style decks. You can uh, temporary exile all their lands when you're trying to resolve spells and things like that, which is pretty sweet. And of course, Replenish can help get back your Parallax Tides, as well as anything like countered Humilities or destroyed Humilities, as well as Seal of Cleansings too, which is pretty interesting. Um, Definitely a lot of neat stuff going on here. I wonder how well the Parallax Tide's obviously a very good card, so it's just interesting, wondering how well it played out, but obviously pretty good because he got first, right? So that's pretty neat stuff here. But yeah, that's it for today, guys. So taking a look at these decks is really fun. Pretty happy, liking it a lot. Really neat stuff, lots of cool stuff. Went a little bit longer than I did, going off about all sorts of neat stuff. But anyways, that makes me happy. That makes me happy, and that's why I do this. So yeah, that's it for today, guys. So thanks for stopping by, and have a great day.